We are in the future. Here we are in the future, and it's bright. I can't believe we've come so far. Steven Universe Future, here we are.
Bing! How's it going?
Steven Universe Future, I'm a car.
Amazing. All right, so we just got done rewatching Steven Universe Future, the sequel to Steven Universe, the TV series. It's not still Steven Universe. This is Steven Universe Future.
It's not kid stuff.
This is not kid stuff, but it is straight from Japan.
Yes.
So anyways, like, I kind of wanted to talk about Steven Universe Future because I feel like I haven't seen anyone else talking about it.
Yeah.
I feel like the last time Steven Universe was really big, like, in the YouTube discussion scene was mostly around when people were deciding that it was shit.
Yeah.
And bad. And, like, I never could relate to that. We watched many people, like, their videos shitting on
like
Steven
turn
Universe.
on Steven Universe and fucking eviscerate it.
Because it became this big, popular heel turn take to just be like, oh, Steven Universe has gone to shit.
Oh, that's shit.
Oh, it was never good to begin with. Oh, it's bad now.
I didn't ever like Steven Universe.
Yeah, and then it just became this big, like, let's dunk on Steven Universe. And then there was some talk about it when the movie came out. Somehow everyone caught up and watched the movie, I guess.
And everyone was like, it's great.
Yeah.
I was like,
Maybe
where
it's just
were
because
you?
I'm mostly talking to, like, the PCP guys, and, like, they stopped caring about Steven Universe until the movie came out and everyone watched it, even if they hadn't caught up, you know?
Sure.
Which is weird, but it's like, I guess because everyone gets spoiled through Twitter anyways,
And it's
you know?
it's partially Cartoon Network's fault for having such a fucked up release schedule.
Yeah. So,
Like,
I get
years
it.
in
Like,
between certain sets of episodes.
I get people falling behind, but I don't get people not catching up. And I think everyone really needs to, now that it's over. Like, you can definitively say, Steven Universe is over.
It's over.
Go watch the whole thing.
Yes.
I highly recommend. And so, we want to get into some of the discussion, because I haven't heard the discussion yet.
Sure.
I have no idea what the general consensus on the end of Steven Universe, because I haven't seen anyone talk about it.
I've only heard from my one other friend who has watched Steven Universe since it started airing, and she loved it. So
Yeah.
she's always loved it, so that's not surprising.
Exactly, and we've always loved it. We never had a
Yeah.
moment where we were like...
I've never had a moment
Yeah.
where I was like, "This is shit now," right?
We really couldn't relate to the whole zeitgeist shift. And, like, I watched enough videos, and I get it. I get people's concerns, but I do think that, like, once people decide that they are disappointed with something, they'll just start picking it apart in ways that they wouldn't have
you'll
if they,
nitpick
like,
on a different level.
And I think it's mostly because of that release schedule and so much time being between things and people having all this time to just kind of like, oh, I waited 3 months and now the episodes are mediocre, so I hate it, you know?
Yeah.
But
The distance magnifies the flaws.
I feel like people really stopped being fair to it. And now it's over. And I think it ended great. I do want to say, like, spoiler-wise, obviously, we're talking about the final season as a whole. We're going to get into spoilers pretty immediately. Just the fact that there is a final season is already a spoiler.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know what you
I
want.
guess.
You should probably go watch Steven Universe if you're interested in watching it. Stop beating around the bush and just go watch it, because it's great.
Full disclosure, we've watched Future twice.
Yes, we just rewatched it so that we could talk about it in further detail. We loved it the first time, loved it just as much, if not more, the second time.
If not more, because we watched it all in the span of like 2 evenings.
Yeah, so we're gonna get into spoilers immediately. I do think this is the kind of thing where if you're on the fence about watching it, then hearing us talk about it and hearing the spoilers might make you enjoy it more. You might enjoy the ending more after being spoiled for it, because you won't be disappointed at all. Not that I think you will be disappointed, but I think there's a chance that people will be disappointed, because I think it's... like, the last couple episodes are a little odd. But, like, I do think us talking about it will probably enhance your going into it in desire to finish the show. Because I think it ends really strong.
I agree.
Especially for a fucking American cartoon that's been airing for 10 years.
Oh
you
my
know?
god, for 10 years?
It's been 10 years, right?
It hasn't quite been 10.
Are you sure?
I'm pretty confident about that.
Now I want to look it up.
Leave a comment below if I'm wrong. Oh, you've already posted it. Perfect. fucking wrong as always.
When did it start airing?
2013. Okay, so nearly a decade, 7
Yeah.
years.
It's been 7 years. I knew it's been quite some time. I didn't realize I was in college when it started.
It's clearly been a while because when I started watching Steven Universe, I bought all the episodes week to week on iTunes, and now iTunes is gone, so all that is just bye into the wind. Bye 3 seasons of Steven Universe, bye.
Oh, God.
Bye money, bye. Thank you, iTunes.
Yeah. But without further ado, so, Steven Universe Future.
Who are you? That used to be a loaded question, but now I can say with confidence that I'm Steven Universe, and you're in my bathroom.
The series, plot-wise, really ended at the end of Steven Universe.
Yes.
And then they had a movie that kind of is a transition from
Transitional period.
the main show to the future
post-show.
The post-show. And, like, the fact that the plot has ended is central to the point of the final season, because Steven Universe is over, and everyone has had their resolution but Steven.
It's truly the aftermath of the main, point of Steven Universe. It's the fallout of Steven Universe.
And it's very clear from the beginning, this is a 20-episode season, and it is incredibly focused, and it just gradually builds to a point of really Steven's breaking point.
Yeah.
It goes from Steven now kind of realizing that he doesn't know what he wants to do with his life, as everyone else around him is kind of figuring out what they want to do with their life.
As they've found what they've been looking for.
All the crystal gems have gone through their character development. They have nothing left to learn,
Even the the broken gems and the gems from Homeworld are finding their place in this new human gem society through the homeschool that they've set up. So even those that have been so displaced, and this is such an alien world to them, even they have a niche that they've kind of found because of this help that they've been extended.
Everyone's finding their purpose. And so the season kind of, I see it as broken into 2 separate pieces, where there's the first 9 episodes where it's kind of episodic. Steven hangs out with X person. But each one of those, he's kind of hanging out with someone who has found what their purpose is. Like, he hangs out with Amethyst, and she's helping all the gems integrate into human society. And it's clear that she has discovered her purpose is to help gems integrate into this world. And that fulfills her, and she's happy doing that, and she's good at it. And Steven tries to help, and he fucks it up.
He fucks it up.
Because he can't do that, you know?
Because Amethyst's big character flaw was always that she didn't know who she was. She didn't know what she was supposed to be doing. She didn't know what she was good at. Now she's found this, and she's really good at it, and she's spent so much time figuring out who she is that now she's got it. She's good. She's figured it out. And Steven's like, oh, well, I can help, and he can't help. He makes it so much worse.
I feel like I finally figured out what I'm supposed to do. I spent so long not knowing who I was or what I was made for. I had to figure that out for myself. And now, I think I'm good at helping other gems figure that out for themselves, too.
Yeah.
So, what about you?
What about me?
It's great. It's just, you see from the very beginning just that progression, and the way it slowly starts to kind of eat away at Steven in ways he doesn't see coming. Where, like, you start off from the very beginning, and it's almost like the inciting moment of doubt is when he goes to talk to Jasper, and Jasper's not having it, and they have a little battle.
Listen, weakling. You might have Pink Diamond's gem, but you are not my diamond. And I am not going to take orders from some weak, sappy, useless piece of dirt. If you think you're hard enough to tell me what to do, then fight me and prove it.
Fine!
Really?
And that kind of puts these seeds in Steven's head of, like, his weakness, you know?
Yeah.
And that...
Because Jasper's thing is that she embraces power, she embraces rage. And so she's living on the outskirts of society, just pulling grass out of the ground and knocking down trees and raging by herself.
It's pretty great. Jasper's hilarious.
Jasper's great.
One of my favorite characters
She's
in this
so
season.
good.
Yeah, but like that, it starts in the first episode, you start the deterioration of Steven, and then episode by episode is just another thing that just chips away at him. getting to the point where I would say episode 10 and onward is where it really focuses in on, like, Steven is the very central plot element and character of each episode. It's not really following other people's story. It's just Steven and what he's going through.
Yeah. It's the disintegration that has started to really take effect.
Because it's like you start to really get it. There's the cactus episode where his subconscious is kind of coming out of him because he creates this cactus that mimics anything he says.
You can't win this fight!
I don't want any more high and mighty advice from Garnet.
And everything he's saying to the cactus is negative, and he's kind of venting to it, not realizing what he's doing, and then the cactus is repeating back at him, and it's very directly this, like, you are clearly in a negative place, you're putting that onto this cactus, and it has become a monster.
It's now shoving it out onto the world.
Yeah, and this is like Steven really starting to break and realize that there's something wrong with him.
It's someone reminiscent of, like, the overflow state in Fooly Cooly, where, like, Momimi has repressed her emotions to the point where finally it explodes out.
Yeah, it starts coming out. Because he's pushing it down the whole time for the first 9 episodes.
Yeah.
Where he's just like, there's clearly something wrong. He's starting to get those seeds of doubt, and it's growing and growing, but he's kind of just ignoring it and letting it go. There's the episode where he meets the other Rose Quartz, which is really bad.
You look so much like her, like my mom. I thought I was ready to move on and not have her hanging over me anymore, but I can barely be in a room with you because I still feel all twisted up about her. I've been pretending that I'm fine because it's not your fault, but I'm not fine.
Oh, yeah.
Because he's just constantly reminded of the shit that his mom put him through and all of the badness of Pink Diamond.
And then,
like,
all of those traits that are within him that he's starting to realize, oh, I'm kind of like that too.
Yeah, because I should mention in the first episode, he is starting to discover his pink powers. Because he's starting to glow pink and become real strong.
Yeah.
and kind of get
the power
these new powers.
fluctuates with his emotions heavily.
And it starts to make him afraid of that from the very beginning because he's not sure what the hell's going on and he can't really control it. And it kind of comes out of him more and more throughout. I think around here... So there's the Steven Cactus episode. That starts the real decline. Then there's the Dream episode.
Peridot? Peridot, come on, we gotta stop. Are you listening to me? Why won't you look at me?
Where Steven's dreams are being projected onto a TV in his room.
Right.
So he starts having nightmares every night, which is making it hard for him to sleep and further deteriorating him. And then he hangs out with Peridot for a day, and they're watching some goofy-ass, stupid drama show.
Yeah.
That it was their favorite show, but now a new season came out 10 years later, and it went to shit like...
It's Twin Peaks, The Return.
It's basically like how we feel about Twin Peaks: The Return. And so they're watching this show, and then Peridot decides they're gonna do their own season of the show through Steven's dreams because they project onto the TV.
Yeah.
And
What could go wrong?
this is where I think Steven starts to develop his sort of subconscious idea of who he wants to be.
Yeah.
Or who... It's hard... It's a weird projection, because he writes himself into the story as this new character.
Thanks, Stefan. You're such a great guy.
Oh, you're great too, you know. Great enough for Jasmine to like you.
What?
I can tell from the way she looks at you. Huh?
Which is clearly
As
him
Stefan.
as like as Stefan the
It's
Chad.
Stefan!
And it's like that's the first time you see a glimpse of like, oh, Steven might be kind of self-conscious about his looks, you know? Because he writes himself in as like this huge muscular Chad.
This beefy dude.
And like this awesome guy. And you kind of see that as like, oh, so Steven must, like, he might want to be like this, you know, be this normal Chad kind of guy. And he's never really expressed that before. He's always been chubby kid.
Like a big, rugged, tough dude, but
Yeah.
he's also like sentimental and empathetic.
Yeah, he's starting to sort of craft this mental image of who he could want to be in that episode, but he's just fucking lapsing into these horrible nightmares. But throughout, like, up to this point, he's always had these moments of weakness, but someone was always there to talk to him afterwards. Like, even going forward for a few more episodes, he always has these moments where he's going to shit, and then like Peridot's with him at the end, and he tells Peridot, "Oh, I was just afraid of losing you," or whatever.
Right. He was like, every time we've hung out together, we've always had something to fix. So this is what was keeping us together, and I'm afraid if we don't have that, our relationship will fall apart.
Yeah, and so they stay together at the end. So he's been deteriorating, but someone's always there to help him at the end of the episode to get him through it. So he's not completely losing his shit yet until we start to get into the later half of the episodes. Really, what truly sets off the decline is the episode with Connie.
Yes.
Which before that, so there's the episode where he is going to hang out with Connie. Minor side story of fucking what's her name in Pearl.
Bismuth
and Pearl, where Bismuth kind of has a crush on Pearl.
Ooh, wait, Pearl? Bismuth, you're here for Pearl?
She's like the Pearl I remember, but a little different. She's happier. I just wanted to catch up.
I feel like people...
Seems a bit out of left field, but it doesn't go anywhere, so I guess it's pretty innocuous.
I heard people discussing it like, Bismuth and Pearl get together? What the fuck? And it's like, well, they don't.
It doesn't happen.
Yeah, it's just kind of like Bismuth has a crush on Pearl.
It seems almost like Bismuth just really admires Pearl, and there's an edge of romantic feelings, but not enough to make it a real thing. Like, just like a crush, you know? Like something you'd see a person and you'd go, wow, they seem really cool, they seem really cute, but it's not the kind of thing that you would act on. Yeah.
Another moment to kind of dial back to is when Steven's friend group is moving on, because there's the episode where what's her name?
Where Sadie
Sadie now
and
has
the Killers break up.
The trans boyfriend, girlfriend,
They're non-binary.
They are non-binary. She is with a non-binary person in a relationship.
Shep.
Which I'm sure all of the haters fucking loved.
Steven, I don't think you've had a chance to meet my new partner.
Hey, I'm Shep. It's cool to finally meet you.
But yeah, she's with Shep, and Steven is projecting jealousy onto Lars, and it all comes together in like this scene where he's crushing them because he doesn't want everyone to go, and he has to learn to like let his friends move on.
Right, because Lars is going to go back out into space. He's leaving the pastry shop that he's made, and Steven's like, oh, you're not actually okay with this, right? This isn't actually what you want. Like, you just want me to fix it for you. It's like, no, not at all.
And there's just all these moments of like he's getting smothered by his family who wants him to stay Steven. Mm-hmm. But he continually does not know who Steven is anymore. You know, he's not the kid he was. He's got these different feelings about everything. He's got all this trauma that he can't work through. But all his friends are moving on. They're figuring out what they want to do.
They're growing up.
And he simultaneously wants to keep his life
close.
The same. He wants to keep his support close. But then he also doesn't want to be the kid anymore. Right. So it's just huge conflict.
Like with the Steven Tag episode, like he very much, and for a while I think the Gems do perceive Steven as still being like that kid. Yeah. And I think maybe they kind of start getting the picture at the end of that episode that like he is trying to grow out of that and he's trying to become a more mature whole person.
Buddy, we just want to spend time with you.
Yes, like we did when you were
a kid. I don't want to disappoint you, but this isn't me anymore. Please, I need you to see me for who I am now.
Please forgive us.
He wants to be accepted for, I am adult Steven. I'm not a kid anymore. I have responsibilities. Because this is still, towards the beginning, he's really devoting himself to Little Homeschool. Mm-hmm. Which I should have mentioned in the cactus episode where he creates a cactus that
the sentient
mimics
cactus.
him. That's the first episode where he decided to leave Little Homeschool. Because for the first 9 episodes, he was dedicating himself to that, and that was kind of his purpose, was helping the Gems like find their new life, and he was just putting all his attention into that and not thinking about what he wanted to do until people started asking him, what the fuck do you want to do? Right. So he went, all right, well, I'm gonna leave Little Homeschool and figure out what I want to do. So he started keeping a garden to himself to like have a hobby, right? Because he doesn't know what the fuck he's doing, you know.
He has no direction.
He has no direction.
He's like, well, I guess I'll try this.
So he had just been putting all of that negative energy into work and ignoring it and putting it off, and then he sort of lets go of that and doesn't have anything to channel that energy into anymore. Right. Just part of the deterioration. But like, so much of what he goes through is so fucking relatable and real, where, like, I remember that feeling in college, because I was living with my parents for so long throughout college, because I commuted to school, so there was no reason to leave the house.
Yeah.
And you just get that feeling of, like, you like the comfort of where you are, and you like being at home and the things going on, but then you just start to, like, you can't help but kind of lash out at your family because you're just trapped with them. And,
all
like,
the time.
no matter what, no matter how old you get, no matter what you do, the interactions with your family are always the same.
Yeah.
Like, you could go out in the world and people treat you completely differently.
Yeah.
Your identity to them has totally changed.
Strangers might see you as an adult, but your family has
Yeah.
a very set certain perception.
You go home and everyone still talks to you the same way as they always have, and it gets to that frustrating place, and then you just start trying to kind of make changes, you know? Like Steven, he doesn't want to wear his burger backpack anymore, he doesn't want to dress the way he used to do,
Even
he
though
doesn't
he
want to
has
eat
a hot
waffles
dog
in the
duffel
morning.
bag.
Yeah, even though he has a hot dog duffel bag.
Same.
He's trying to create an identity, but being around the same family and the same house is just kind of stopping him from, like, figuring out what his
What he
new
really
purpose
wants.
is, which is completely relatable,
Totally
as a
relatable.
coming of age thing.
Yeah.
It's happening to him at, like, 16, whereas it happens to most people, I think, in at least 18 to 25
Yeah,
is kind
probably
of the range for that.
college age.
But it is like,
But it's like, yeah, it's like, you know, like with my parents, or at least with my mom, like when I was younger, I was really tomboyish. I didn't really lean into anything girly. And then as I got into college, I started kind of trying to change that image and embracing things. And, you know, all of a sudden I, you know, liked pink and all that stuff. And my mom was like, what is this?
Yeah.
I don't know what this is. She had no idea what to do with that because she'd always known me as, you know, this person who was not into the feminine stuff. And
yeah. And you start to create, this is a big thing for me in high school, because you've spent your childhood cultivating kind of an identity of what you wanted to be, which for me, it was like long hair, beard, like the look I kept going towards. And then everyone starts to put this expectation on you to never change that. And like what you're doing is what you want to do. And you start to like lose the desire to look that way anymore and be that way, but you're so
railroaded into it.
But you're so afraid of people like judging you when you change or asking questions when you change.
Yeah, like,
you
oh,
just
why are
want
you
to do
doing
your
that?
own thing. You just want to change what you change and act how you act and not have everyone question you and get on you or think something's wrong, you know?
Yeah.
Like Steven,
It's like, oh, are you okay? Why are you acting like that?
he will constantly push everyone away when they try to inquire about stuff, which I totally get, because you just want to go through your own shit in your head and you feel like
Yeah.
you don't want people to worry about you, you know?
But simultaneously, you're trying to sort out, like, when you're trying something, you don't know that you're gonna like it. You might not like it, and you might want to change back. And you don't want someone, like, questioning you every time you go, oh, well, I tried this.
Yeah.
I didn't like it, and I want to go back to what I was doing before. And then you've got people asking, like, oh,
Yeah.
well, what's going on? Why? And you're like, I don't really want to explain it.
You just feel like everyone's fucking
It's not a
looking
big
at
deal.
you, you know? They're just, they expect, you think people expect you to be consistent and you want to be inconsistent, but you're trapped in just like, I don't want to fucking talk to these people about, like, I just want to do this thing and not have it be a big
No
deal,
one
you know?
questioned me. No one asked me why. Yeah.
Just leave me alone.
Just let me figure this out. There's already so much turmoil going on internally that the last thing you need is external, like, conflict as well.
Yeah. It's too good. The season is so real. But anyway, so the breaking point. You get an episode where Steven goes to hang out with Connie and her friends, and he starts to feel like he's really, you know, her friends are so different than what he's used to. They're normal kids.
Yeah.
He's out of place. He relates more to the crazy gem shit that he's been going through, and he can talk to gems, but he can't talk to regular people. He feels distanced. But then in the end, he's brought together with Connie when they become Stevani, and it's this big triumphant moment of like, nah, you can hang out with us, it's all good. And that episode's fine, you know, that you would see that as Steven progressed here, he's not deteriorating, he has support, Connie's with him, she's so good for him, you know, Connie is perfect. She doesn't have any problems at all.
Yeah.
She's got her shit together completely, because she's so mature and cool, you know.
Well, because she's already worked through
Yeah.
her character arc, you know?
Exactly.
Of being controlled by her parents and then coming to terms with what she wants.
Because everyone has worked through their character arc. Because Steven has helped everyone overcome their fucking mental hangups, but he has not had any time to think about himself.
Yeah.
And he's finally doing that for the first time and freaking the fuck out. But that leads to the next episode where he's thinking about what his purpose is, and then he remembers, I felt so good when I was Stevonnie. Maybe my purpose is being Stevonnie. And so he talks to Ruby and Sapphire, who are like, yes, you need to marry Connie now and become Stevonnie.
Ruby gives him the big fucking pep talk. They're like, you gotta go do it right now! And Sapphire's like, oh, well, let me try and work it out. And then, a chance event occurs, and she's like, oh, well, you can't fucking predict anything, so I don't know, you do you, bro, go for it!
Yeah.
And you're like, okay.
Because she's doing the whole love breaks all boundaries.
Oh, love breaks the rules. There's all sorts of wacky shit in the universe.
Because they're the worst people to ask about romantic advice because they're insane.
Yes. Exactly.
Never ask the perfect couple about how to make romantic shit work because they don't know.
No,
they're just
no
fucking
idea.
winging it. They're crazy. So, he goes to propose to Connie in the most adorable scene ever, and it's fucking crushing, because of course she says no, obviously.
She doesn't say no.
Yeah.
She says not right now.
She says not right
Which
now.
is totally fair, because they're 16. Well,
Yeah.
she's a little older than him. She's 2
Is
years
she?
older than Steven?
Oh, I didn't know.
Because there's that episode where you learn Steven's growth is, super, stunted, because he's super tiny, and he's, 13 when she's, 15? There's, an age gap there somewhere.
I don't know. Because Connie can't be 18 because she's 2 years away from applying to
I think
college.
she might
so
be
I
a
thought she
year
was
older,
16.
so she's, 17? It doesn't matter. Anyway.
Because they say at the beginning, Connie's applying to college, but she's 2 years away from doing it or whatever, even though she's studying for college.
Yeah, I don't know. It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Anyway.
I don't know. Ages don't matter
Doesn't
at all.
matter.
Either way, Connie is she's obviously fucking totally smitten with Steven. She loves him. But she's not ready to get married. And because Steven also proposes as, will you be Stevonnie with me? Because
right.
Steven is
we're
going
gonna be Stevonnie, and we're gonna go to college as Stevonnie.
as Stevonnie. He wants to continue life as Stevonnie and have them literally combine and become that,
Be Garnet.
He doesn't want to be Steven anymore. He doesn't know who Steven is. He doesn't feel good as Steven. He wants to be Stevonnie, where he's confident, he's a badass, he gets along with people, he's intelligent because he's part Connie, He loves being Stevonnie.
Yes.
And Connie's like, I want to be me and have my own life, and I don't want to be Stevonnie. I want to be Connie
I don't want
and
to be
Steven.
that all the time.
Yeah. Stevonnie's nice sometimes, but not literally my identity. So Steven, of course, this is a moment where Connie really fucks up, in my opinion. Because Steven's she couldn't do anything.
Yeah.
Because Connie has 15-minute study breaks.
Right.
So Steven
She's such a
planned this around.
regimented,
Yeah. He's planned it around Connie's 15-minute study break. So she's on her break, and Steven's like, oh, you need to get back to studying. Your 15 minutes is over. And she's like, are you sure? Are you okay? And he's like, yeah, of course I'm okay.
Yeah, and
obviously,
she's
he's not fucking
Steven.
okay.
She insists a couple times. She's like, no, let me stay. And he's like, no, this is important to you. You need to go. And he sends her off on Lion.
Which is what he always does,
Yes.
And that's another relatable thing for me. I know there's probably conversations way back when with me and you where things ended in a way where I pretended like I was fine afterwards, and I was not fucking fine. And then, when you're in that state and then you try to go back to regular life, it's just fucking sucks.
Yeah.
Because you are not fine,
Yeah.
And that's where Steven starts to deteriorate from here, because go to the next episode. Well, first he comes home and he's comforted by Garnet.
Right.
Which, if Garnet wasn't there, who knows what would have happened?
Yeah, who knows what could have occurred if that was the case.
Yeah,
if she hadn't
so
been there.
the only reason he could go back to stability is because he was there to be comforted by Garnet, even though Garnet knows because of her future vision that he's not going to feel better either
But she
way,
also knows there's nothing she could have done to prevent that from happening. She's like, there is no future where you didn't propose to
Exactly.
Connie.
Because you can't, you just got to let people do their own thing, which is what I love about Garnet, is her ability to know the future and just be like, people have to figure shit out for themselves.
You gotta let them do it. You can't just tell them, hey, that's not gonna be good for you, because people won't listen to that.
And then she doesn't lecture Steven. She just is there, she sits with him, and she's like, you needed to do that. Basically,
yeah,
I'm here for you, which is the best way to support someone when they're going through emotional shit, is just here I am, I'm sorry. There's nothing I can really do.
Sucks.
It's a bitch. God.
Yeah. And she is like, well, I mean, you asked the two worst possible people for love advice. Those two are completely useless.
And she probably knew from the beginning of the day, you know? She knew what was going to happen.
Of course.
Because that's how Garnet be, and she's the coolest. But, so the next day, shit's getting worse.
I wish the Gems weren't doing a field trip this week. Wonder if they have any reception. Guess not.
Steven's sitting in his room, kind of freaking out. This is where he's like morphing.
Right.
I think.
The internal conflict is becoming physically
because
embodied.
Now Connie is trying to call him, and he is like, he's trying to pretend everything's okay, and it's fucking not okay. They just went through some serious shit, and she's like, all right, Steven's fine, we can keep going on, and Steven is not letting her talk about it, you know? He's just like, oh, it's fine, whatever.
Yeah. To be fair, when she leaves the evening before, she goes, okay, well, I'll call you on my lunch break tomorrow.
Yeah.
Steven tries to not answer her call when she calls on her lunch break, but because his body morphs, he accidentally accepts the call, and that's the only reason that she even gets through to him at that time.
Yeah. And then she sees that he's morphing, and she's like, you need to come to the doctor, come to my mom, we'll see what's wrong. Terrible idea.
At this point, you learn that Steven's never been to the doctor.
Yeah, it's fucking
And you're
great.
like, what the fuck was Greg doing? What the fuck? What? Oh my god.
I don't think he was thinking about much of anything at all, as we'll find out later.
Exactly. He wasn't thinking. That's exactly what it is.
Not the best dad, but none of them are, you know. No one's the best dad.
Which we'll get to later.
Yeah. So he goes to the doctor to see Connie's mom. Well, Connie's mom is the doctor.
Connie's mom is the doctor.
She does some checkups on him, and she's like, I don't know what the fuck is going on. She does an x-ray of him, because she says she's done an x-ray on all of the crystal gems to see what gems are like. Sorry. And then the x-rays for all the gems just show up as their gem and nothing else.
Right.
But Steven's x-ray has his skeleton and his gem, and his skeleton is just fucked.
It's fractured as shit.
It's fractured and broken in all sorts of places. His skull is fractured in multiple places, and she said it's like as if when his bones break, they instantly heal.
Yeah.
But she's talking about how clearly his body has been through a lot of trauma, and his mind has been through a lot of trauma, and that still is in you, you know?
Right.
Especially physical trauma. Even if you're a kid, like they say physical trauma can stay with you on a subconscious level, you know? And your body will respond to certain things in different ways because of that physical trauma.
Yeah. And Connie's mom makes the point here where she's like, well, you've been through so much, like, and such intensity that now even smaller threats and like smaller stressors are causing this huge reaction from you. Mm-hmm. Your body has been trained to react this way. Your mind is trained to react this way. And so now even little things that wouldn't, normally set someone off are causing this tremendous explosion of energy and stress.
And like on a mental side, like I said, he's always had something to put his mind on, and he's never had time for introspection.
Yeah.
Like he has never turned it inward on himself and thought about himself, and now he's given himself time to think about that, and he doesn't know how to handle it by leaving, little homeschool, which was distracting him. He is now just unleashed to think.
Yeah.
And he's thinking deeply for the first time. Like
so
he's
much
become
time.
Yeah, he's become woke and like and now he's thinking about himself in ways that he's never done, and he's just he can't handle it. He's freaking out going through all this shit.
And as they're talking about all this, he starts freaking out as he's talking to Connie's mom, and his body starts reacting, and he says something that I jotted down.
Nice.
So it was a lot. He says he's freaking out, and he's just like, how do I live life if it always feels like I'm about to die? And I was like, oh my god. Oh.
It's brutal. And I understand that as someone who recently has come down with panic disorder, where now my body literally physically fucking freaks out anytime I think there is something wrong with me, to the point where now I am medicated for that, which Steven probably should be.
Probably.
Like, I relate strong to this era of him where he's having panic attacks, you know? He doesn't know what the fuck's going on. He doesn't know how to control himself.
Like, straight, that's what it is.
He has post-traumatic stress, and he's also, when you feel like you're not in control of yourself, that's where you can really freak out the most, you know? Because he's not in control, he doesn't understand what's happening, and he doesn't know how to fix it, and he's used to having some degree of control. Or being able to work through it, or he's working through someone else's problems.
Or having a distraction,
Yeah, a distraction.
Being able to funnel that energy into fixing someone or something else.
Yeah, and now he's just alone with his mind, and his problems, and his body freaking out, and he can't control it, and he doesn't know what the fuck to do, and he's just fucking losing it. And then, so at this point, he starts to Hulk out in the doctor's office, and his dad comes in and he calms him down. Once again, he's freaking out. Someone is there to calm him down.
His dad comes in. And it's at this point where Connie comes in initially before his dad, and he's just like, I can't see you right now. I just cannot see you right now. And he has to leave with Greg.
Yeah. So he goes off with his dad. So the next episode, things get really fucked. Because his dad's like, I'm going to take you on a road trip. We're going to have father-son time. You're going to relax. I'm going to help you work through this weird teenage shit you're going through. Everyone goes through this. You're fine. It's going to be okay. Dad's here for you. We're going to be together. So they're having a road trip. They're having a great time. Everything is going swell. And then something instigates Greg deciding, I want to show you where you came from, you know, or show you what my life was like.
Right.
Is where he was coming from.
Because he was trying to lead Steven on that same journey of self-discovery that he went on.
Because he was going, this worked for me.
Right.
This will work for you. This
was what I did, so I should show you the same thing, because it will definitely work.
Mm-hmm. And then he makes a big, big fucking mistake, and he sneaks into a house. Steven doesn't know what's going on. And then, through exploring the house, Steven discovers, this is my dad's house. What the fuck?
Where
so for the first time,
live.
We've never heard anything about Greg's side of the family. You just assume he came from shit, and like he obviously has cut ties with his family or whatever because he's this vagabond. Like you don't know anything about his family. We've never been given any information at all.
Yes, you know his last name is DeMeo, and that's basically all you know.
Yeah. So he's exploring the house, and Steven's going like, wow, you had a great life here. Like, look at this. And Greg's like, no, this place sucked, dude. It was a prison. It was a hellhole. My parents were so strict. They wouldn't let me do anything. I had to eat meatloaf every Thursday for my entire life. I never had tacos until I was an adult.
Do you know how old I was when I got to eat my first taco?
And it's like, it feels like, realistically, his parents were probably the kind of super tight Catholic sort of, like, very controlling. You know, they give him the military haircut and everything. And it's like, I get it. That's a shit life.
Sure.
But also, he is coming from, like, an upper middle class world where he always had structure. His parents were always there for him. They gave him money. They gave him everything he needed growing up. And that is the fucking opposite of what Steven had.
He had stability, which is something Steven never had.
He had intense stability. Even though what Steven doesn't kind of recognize, because Steven starts to freak out because he's like, you know, his dad's talking shit. They get back in the van after they explore the house, and Dad starts playing for him the song that inspired him to become who he is.
Right.
Which is this fucking David Bowie song that's super corny and stupid, and it's about finding your place in the universe, and it sings about Mr. Universe, and that's where they got their name. And Steven is like, wait.
It's like, is this it?
We got our name from a fucking song? What? This stupid, corny song is what I'm fucking named after?
Song.
You hid my entire family and my life and my past from me? You never said anything about it? I didn't know that I had grandparents? And I traveled across the universe to find my other family, the Diamonds, and I had to fight them?
Who were horrible and put him in an extremely traumatic situation.
Yeah. So Steven is fucking pissed, and he says a very important line, which is, you're just like Mom.
Mm-hmm.
You're just like Mom.
You grew up with actual freedom.
I grew up in a van. I never went to school. I'd never been to the doctor until 2 days ago.
Which is completely true. And it really shows you why Greg and Rose Quartz / Pink Diamond were so good together in the first place. Because they are the same person.
Yeah.
Because Greg's parents and the Diamonds are exactly the same. They're authoritarian, controlling parents that wouldn't give their kid their way. Pink Diamond and Greg are the same. They're spoiled brats from rich families where they were given anything they wanted, but except for the thing that they wanted, except for freedom, which is all they wanted.
Yeah.
And they're these bleeding heart, loving fucking people. And so Greg and Pink Diamond are exactly the same.
Yeah.
So when we find out Greg's past, it's like, oh, he is Pink Diamond. He was trapped in his home, he ran away, he fell in love with this random person, and they had a kid recklessly without thinking about it because they're free spirits. And they were the same all along. Yes. And Greg is just as responsible for everything that's fucked up about Steven as Pink Diamond is. This is a man who lived in a van his whole life. His kid is taken care of by... Aliens? A group of aliens that aren't even blood relatives?
Raised his son.
Yeah, like he's an irresponsible fuck.
His wife.
Like he's essentially almost an absentee father in every way except for occasional emotional support.
He's an anime dad, except that he does give a shit about Steven. He's just a shit dad.
It's like Steven has never been to school. Steven has never been to the doctor. He's been educated by
How does Steven know how to read? Can Steven read?
He can.
How did he learn to read?
Didn't we go... Isn't there an episode where he learns? Did Connie teach him?
Maybe.
Or maybe that was a gem. I feel like there was a learning to read episode.
You might be right. It's been a while since we watched
Flash on screen, if that was a thing. Anyways, yeah, it's been a long time. But yeah, he's had a shit father his entire life. And that was okay when he was a kid, when everything was fun and he wasn't thinking about it,
Yeah.
Which is probably true of a lot of childhoods where you don't realize how shitty it is until you get out and you realize... I never knew who my grandparents were, and you never told me. And, like, what the fuck? Like, I could have had this in my life, my whole life, and you withheld that from me because, like, your parents were strict, You never made up with them? What the fuck?
Yeah, I mean, to be devil's advocate, when they're in Greg's parents' house, Steven goes downstairs to leave a letter apologizing for them breaking and entering, and he opens a drawer that's full of letters from Greg to his parents that are unopened. So clearly they've received his communications and they haven't bothered to read them.
Well, we don't necessarily know that they're unopened.
They were. He says they haven't been opened. Steven looks at them and says unopened letters from Dad.
Yeah.
He makes sure to mention that they have not been read.
So that at least shows
the street might run both ways. That's fair.
Even though it's like one of those weird things where, like, obviously they've... Like, that makes it seem like they've disowned him, you know, because they're not answering his letters. They're being fucking stubborn douchebags about it. But his room is still unoccupied.
There's still pictures of their family photos on the wall. He's in the family photos. Like, there is still keepsakes and memorabilia with Greg in the house.
Definitely a nuanced situation. He's not totally evil,
like any
obviously.
family that becomes like that,
From the perspective of Steven, it's like, what the fuck, And then for him to drop it, like, he drops it so casually, where he's just like, oh, here's the house. And he's like, well, what the fuck is this? Like, you could have eased him in and explained your relationship with your parents, but he didn't. He just brought him to the house.
Yeah, he literally didn't explain anything. He just took him there, broke in, and went, oh, he didn't, none of the sentimental stuff. He just went there to get, like, a box?
Yeah.
Well, a box with a fucking David Bowie CD in it? Okay.
God, and it's fucking brutal. And then it's just that, like, Steven's realization that not only was his mom a fuck up who he can't really look up to at all.
Yeah.
And, he's been ruined to his mom. He can't think of her the same way anymore. But now his dad is a fuck up that he can't look up to. And his dad, he's looked up to his entire life and loved. And in this moment, he's just like, he has this picture he took on his phone of his dad as a kid.
Because he freaks out and he crashes the car. He crashes the van.
Yeah.
And he wakes up after raging out, and his dad is sitting there, and he's like, oh, it's cool, I've called the tow truck. And his dad comments about how he's really proud of him, because he was never able to stand up to his parents like that.
And he starts going on a whole spiel of, I'm proud of you, and blah, 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 blah.
You can tell me anything, right?
And Steven's just looking like, fuck this
He
asshole.
totally, like, tunes it out immediately.
Is playing this awesome music as Steven tunes out his dad, and he looks at this picture he took of his dad when he was a kid on his phone, and he fucking deletes it. And that to me was like, holy shit. Because his dad has always been an emotional support for him, and in this moment, he can't take him seriously anymore.
Yeah.
And this is really where he's gone so far that he can't be helped by the people around him in the same way that they normally would, you know?
Yeah.
Because he's just like, no one can reach him anymore.
Yeah, he's lost
closed
ties
off.
with Connie. He's lost respect for his dad. It's like he's losing these support systems just one at a time.
It's fucking brutal. That moment just like it like almost gives me chills.
I'm sure
to
that
think
you
about.
had
It's
a lot
crazy.
that you could empathize with. For
Yeah,
that.
I mean, there's always growing up and kind of realizing that your parents like didn't know what they were doing, which I
Yeah.
think everyone can kind of
Yeah,
relate to an extent, or
definitely.
just looking back on your
Or-
childhood and being
yeah.
like, oh man, like there were certain things that were so fucked up and they didn't have to be if your parents kind of had their emotions together, you know.
Yeah.
And then you realize just like, oh yeah, no one is that mature. My parents got like I'm older than my parents were when my older brother was born, you know? Like it's crazy. When you become a certain age and you look back on your family and
And
just
you
realize,
go,
oh yeah.
Oh, you didn't know anything more than I do now when I was a child. Super.
No one is really that mature, and it's crazy. And then I'd like to double back to the moment where there's another strong relatable moment where it was right after the thing with Connie, when Steven was in his house before he goes to the doctor. He calls his dad, and he's trying to talk to his dad about what happened with Connie, and his dad is talking about like he kind of doesn't realize that a serious conversation is going to be had, and he's just like, oh yeah, I'm on tour and I'm having all this fun and all this stuff. And like I feel like I've been almost exactly
I feel like
there.
that is exactly like what you've experienced at times.
Where it's like
with your dad.
you try to talk to your parents and you want to like have a vulnerable conversation, and they just don't read where you are.
Yeah, the mood.
And
at
then you
all.
go like, I don't want them to worry, or what can they really do for me, or you have these doubts, and then you just
Yeah.
let it go, you know?
You start to feel like, oh, this is too much. This
Yeah.
is going to be embarrassing, and I'm not even going to get anything out of it. So I'm just
Exactly.
going to stop.
And then you just feel like you can't talk to anyone about your problems, you know, and it sucks.
Yeah.
And I've totally been there. Totally had the parents just not perceive what was wrong at all. And it's very real and relatable, which this season does such a fucking phenomenal job of just communicating a mental decline and having, you know, he's got a great support network and he has amazing friends, and it's still not enough, you know? He has to work through it himself, and those people have to help him in the right ways, which they'll eventually get to do, but they have not gotten there yet.
Right.
Anywho.
And it's just also the idea that like some trauma is so complicated that just like talking through it or
Yeah.
having someone to hold your hand isn't going to be enough.
Mhm.
And
And
it's
you're
not
not
a
gonna-
one-time thing. It's
Yeah.
not, oh, I had this good conversation one time and now I'm better.
Mhm.
It's a whole fucking staircase of steps.
Which people try to tell him, I think his dad especially tried to tell him, like, everyone goes through this and it takes time. You're not going to figure it out in one night. Just go to sleep. That's what he had said in between when he gets him from the hospital and he brings him home, and he's like, you're not going to solve this in a day. Just chill out. You can't do anything. Go to sleep. Get some rest.
Yeah.
And work through it. And that is good mature dad advice.
Yes.
Beyond the rest of it. But anyway, so the next episode, I believe, is when he goes to hang out with Jasper. Because he needs space. He can't get away from everyone. And he's just like, I need to fucking get out of here. Because the crystal gems are all kind of starting to see that something is wrong.
Yeah, they're all really hounding him, like, hey, what's going on? What's going on? Talk to me. You can't avoid this conversation. Like, really barking up the tree.
Yeah, and that's a difficult thing when you're trying to help someone and now they see that something is wrong with him and he won't admit it and he won't talk about it. And, like, they can't, it's hard for them because they want to help him, but he needs his space, but they don't know what's going on, and they're panicked, and you definitely, like, there's that fine line between you have to be there for people when they're distressed, but you also have to give them space to think about it and let them come to you, and it's just so complicated, those situations where, aggressively trying to go after him and help him isn't going to work because he needs his space.
Yeah.
So he goes to find his space by talking to Jasper, which is right on the cusp of being a good thing.
Because Jasper is the one person in the world who does not give a fuck how he's feeling.
Yeah. Which is the right thing for him at that time, you know? Like, he needed something to take his attention away, to get his frustration out, and Jasper was perfect for that.
Now, tell me, did it feel good to let your anger out?
Yeah.
So he goes to Jasper, and he's like, will you train me? And Jasper's like, you better fight me. And he's like, I'll fight you if you train me. And then she starts beating the shit out of him, training him hard for 3 days.
3 whole days.
There's a fun montage, and this is another moment where Steven's inner sort of self-conscious self is coming out, because he's embracing his sort of rage and his masculinity, and he becomes Alpha Steven. Chad Steven looks like the Stefan in his dream. Like, he came up with that sort of image of himself in his dream, and now that he's sort of morphing with his pink form, he becomes he embodies that image. And I think it goes to show, because Jasper is bringing out what Steven was afraid of. Steven was afraid of his power, his ability to hurt people, that, he's afraid of the diamond in him. Yeah, his aggression, his diamond powers. He doesn't want to be like the diamonds. He doesn't want to be an aggressive bad guy, even though he's a man. He's coming of age. He's got some aggression in him, and he's not letting it out. He's pushing it down and pushing it down and pushing it down. Another thing I can relate to a lot, because I went through the same phase of, like, getting out aggression in the form of physical contact sport. Which is good for every young Asian guy.
Punching the shit out of your friends in the backyard.
Yeah, punching the shit out of your friends in the backyard. And he needed that outlet. So he starts to take on this masculine persona, because that's what he's been afraid of. He's been afraid of being this tough, masculine guy. He's been afraid to sort of embrace that mental image he wants of himself as this big Chad, Like, he clearly wants to grow up to be big Chad Steven and, like, be the man for Connie and embrace that masculine aspect of himself, because he's such a feminine guy, He's always cried, he's always run away, he's always tried to figure things out through love and,
he's always wanted peaceful resolution.
And he's afraid of that physical, confrontational, Chad masculine part of himself, So he's letting that loose. He's becoming Chad Steven. He's embodying this cool muscular bro. And then he's like, I'm ready to fight Jasper. I'm fucking feeling it. He's confident. He's embracing that confidence, embracing his power, and they have a big old battle, and he beats the fucking shit out of Jasper. And then he has this moment throughout the fight, he's just like, yeah, he's feeling
he's getting, like, real revved up.
Yeah, he's starting to really let loose and embrace that feeling, and that is, like, at first it's healthy, but he's taking it too far, He's getting a little caught up in it. He's losing his consciousness about it.
Right.
And then he goes, you're right, Jasper, I have been holding back. And he unleashes this ultimate attack, and then we cut away. And he has killed Jasper.
He murders Jasper. As he makes that says that line where he's like, yeah, I have been holding back, he also has the diamond eyes, diamond pupils. That's the first time we see him with that.
I feel like he had the diamond pupils
maybe before,
every time he was in pink form.
Not every time.
But every time since this moment he does.
Yes. In all the subsequent moments. But I think this is the first big moment where, like, because all that aggression has been let out, like, that's, like, peak diamond form.
Yeah.
Like, asserting your authority, asserting your dominance, and really just, like, going in.
Yeah. So he kills Jasper. He runs home. He fixes Jasper in a moment of desperation, because now the big macho facade has melted away.
Yeah.
Because he was embracing that, he was feeling confident, and then he did exactly what he was afraid of, which was taking it too far. And now he's afraid of his power again, completely.
Yeah.
So he fixes Jasper. Jasper refers to him as a diamond.
Yeah.
She's like, I respect you now, my diamond. You're the shit. And he's like, fuck, this is exactly what I'm afraid of. Yeah. I do not want to be a diamond. I'm not a diamond. I'm Steven. So now he decides he needs to go to Homeworld and talk to the diamonds.
Yes.
Because now he is associated with diamonds. This is a diamond issue. He has diamond powers.
This is a problem only diamonds can help him solve.
He needs to figure this out. So we have a big episode where he goes to Homeworld. He meets up with Spinel, which is a good fun time. The diamonds are always treated as this big goofy joke, which
They
is
were
odd.
such a tremendous threat, and now
Yeah.
they're like these big goofy boys.
Which
And
I
you're just
partially
like,
understand.
okay.
It's one of the weirder elements of the show, which I definitely can see where people might have a problem with the portrayal of the diamonds.
Because I'll give you that, like, at the end of Steven Universe, the about face that the diamonds do is intense.
Yeah.
White Diamond goes from trying to mind crush Steven to being like, oh, well, I guess I'll free all the creatures in the universe that I've been oppressing.
Yeah.
Oops.
But it is very, like, it's a kind of a gem mentality where, like, they're very black and white.
That's true.
And they shift very quickly. Where, like, they literally did not understand before, and now they do understand, and it is a 180 shift, you know?
Yeah.
Like, I kind of get it.
They don't have quite the spectrum of
Yeah.
thinking that humans seem to have.
There's not a lot of gray area with
with
gems in general.
Yeah.
So they've always kind of had those wacky tendencies. But it is a little ridiculous, and they do just become comic relief characters, which is odd.
Yes, for sure.
So Steven tours Homeworld, and he goes to each gem or each diamond. In each diamond now, their powers have reversed, where whatever they did before that was destructive, it's the opposite now, and they fix people.
Or
Yeah,
restorative.
they have restorative powers, which you parallel to Steven. He's always had healing powers. That's always been Pink's power is healing, but I think the opposite end, which he is reflecting now, is destruction. I think it's
even
meant to be
just,
healing versus destruction.
Like chaos.
Chaos, maybe. I think it's like ultimate destructive power is kind of how I see it. Because he
like,
does like the shouts and
Yeah.
like it just destroys everything in a vicinity, you know?
But even with like the healing powers that he uses on the plants that now just make the plants Stevens, and they're just agents of chaos. They fucking pan out and just go crazy.
Yeah.
And you're like, whoa, what the fuck are they doing?
I'm not sure. I feel like it might be like a shatter sort of power. Because he heals, he brings shattered things together, and then like his sort of aura and his shout shatters things around him. Like it's always shattering the ground,
Yeah.
it's shattering glass, he
Breaks the
shatters
anvil.
Jasper, you know, he's shattering shit. Yeah, he breaks the anvil. Like he's splitting, he's shattering. That's kind of his thing. He splits and he reforms. Like those to me seem like the two opposite powers that he has, because each diamond has two powers, it seems,
Right.
that are opposites of each other. So Blue Diamond before could make everything sad. Now she can make everything happy. Yellow Diamond could make these fucking chimera gems of join fusions of other gems, I guess.
Fucked up fusion.
And now she can put gems back together. And White Diamond now can fucking, you know, she could mind control people before, and now she lets people mind control her!
Which power how? I'm not sure how that's helpful, but
And so this leads to another big mental break in Steven, where he mind controls White Diamond, which was not a fucking good idea.
bad plan, buddy.
'Cause
Bad optics.
He immediately starts projecting a bunch of shit onto White Diamond, and tries to fucking murder her, essentially.
Yeah. He has a flashback.
Yeah.
And it comes to the point because there's that imagery of Steven with White Diamond, like almost like a marionette, and then he attempts to shatter her in slamming his own head against the pillar in the room, because that's where her diamond is on her forehead, and so he's like, oh well, you caused all this pain to me, I'm gonna cause this pain to you, and makes an effort to, maybe subconsciously makes an effort to shatter her.
Yeah, it's some spooky Shinji Ava freak out shit. Very cool scene, very fun.
It's fucked.
And spooky and fucked, yes. And so he's running out of Homeworld now because he's fucking freaked himself out. And he goes to Spinel and he's like, Spinel, you've had dark thoughts. How did you work through it? And she's like, oh, you helped me.
That
it was
you,
you.
dog.
You sang me this goofy song. And he's like, I don't fucking need advice from me. And he runs back home.
I can make a change. You can make a promise.
Don't give me my own advice.
And this is where he kind of enters into a big stage of denial. Because he is now turned into Alpha Steven and he can't turn back. And now he's like, this is okay. I can be Alpha Steven and I can still be me and I can go help people. I just need to do what I was doing before. I need to do what I'm good at. I need to help people. I need to have a good time. This is kind of almost a weak, weird episode to me for the most part, because it's mostly comic relief of like very predictable acts of like Steven goes here and tries to help and it doesn't go right. Steven break. Oh no.
Oops.
And it kind of does that for an episode, which is a little jarring and weird after like so many really great episodes, and then this is kind of like,
and then this one you're kind of puttering around for a bit.
Yeah, a little wacky.
But, the whole time that this is happening, Steven does have his diamond eyes.
Yes, he does have his diamond eyes because he has fucking lost it. He has lost his mind.
A broken man.
Yeah. And so at the end of this episode, the crystal gems and everyone tries to sit him down for an intervention. They're like, dude, something is fucking wrong. You need help.
It's time to stop.
And at first he's trying to deny. Oh, I'm fine. And then he finally starts to slip and he starts to let shit go and speak his mind in a really crazy, spooky, awkward way. And then he starts to internalize because he's just going through all these stages in kind of a manic way. And then he goes in on himself and he goes, I'm a monster.
Well, because he starts breaking down because they've cornered him at this point and they're forcing him to talk. And he's like, what are you guys talking about? I'm fine. I'm Steven. I fix things. I certainly don't, shatter diamonds. I didn't think about shattering White. I didn't shatter Jasper. I didn't do all these horrible things. And everyone's like, what the fuck are you talking about? And even like, who was it? Pearl is like, well, you're not a shatterer. What are you talking about? Yeah. And so it's all reflecting back on him to the point where, the pressure cooker has reached maximum internal pressure.
Yeah. And then he starts to voice about, he goes in on himself and he's like, if you guys knew who I really am, you'd think I was a monster. I'm a monster.
Yeah.
And like another relatable point where it's like there's things.
I'm a fraud.
Yeah, I'm a fraud. And there's like, I relate to it a lot again, as someone who always tried to be good guy growing up, he wants to be good guy, and he's always been good guy, and he thinks people's mental image of him is that he's perfect, and that he always has it together, and that he is the one who is everyone's rock, and they depend on him, and he has to keep it together, and he's had these thoughts and like these feelings of angst, and he's been doing things that he feels bad about and regrets, and he's not talking about that with anyone. He's trying to hide the bad shit from everyone, and it's just, he's internalizing it on himself, and he's looking at what his mom did, and he keeps thinking he's like his mom. He thinking he's like the Diamonds, who he thinks are these terrible people. He thinks they are monsters,
Yeah.
And he sees himself in them, and so he must be a monster too, because he's had these thoughts, even though he hasn't really done anything besides when he goes and shatters Jasper, That was kind of the one thing that he really fucked up.
And the thing with White, that's
the thing with White
close.
too. But like,
spooked me.
But he was already on the train of thinking that he was a bad person before that.
Right, he was already slipping down that slope.
He was getting
which
there.
Is fair.
Which was just from his, his fear of his own power and thinking that he's going to become what he eventually ends up becoming because he won't confront what he's going through.
Right.
So he internalizes, he goes, I'm a monster, and then he becomes a monster! Ah! He gets real big and he becomes a raging Godzilla, and everyone's like, what the fuck?
Big pink Godzilla.
And so there's a bit of a silly episode for the most part where everyone is trying to fight Steven Godzilla because Garnet's like, now that he thinks he's a monster, he's going to keep being a monster until he gets help, Yeah. Which is pretty true when you finally bottomed out and you just hate yourself. You're going to hate yourself until something convinces you otherwise, I guess. But so it's a little silly. Steven Monster's a little goofy, But it's clear, like, the show goes into these good emotional depths, but it still it doesn't take itself too seriously, and I do respect that.
Yeah.
And I think it's a good sign where it's like it'll still stay goofy even in these moments of emotional trauma. It doesn't want to take itself too seriously and get big-headed about it, I guess.
It doesn't make Steven like this literal big fucked up demon. It's like he's a big pink goofy purple alien monster.
Yeah. It's pretty silly. And it is like, because it is silly. Steven's thoughts are silly at the end of the day. He's just made it into such a big deal.
Right. He's conflated it to this point.
Because he didn't want to get any help and he didn't want to admit what was wrong.
Yeah. But I mean, that's a real, like, human train of thought. And then when you're older and you look back at that, you can go, yeah, that was stupid.
Like, oh man, I was such an idiot. I turned into a big gay monster.
Big cringe. I was fucking cringing hard back then.
I was cringing hard. I was being a dumbass.
Yeah.
I think the episode would be a lot better if the diamonds hadn't showed up. Because that part, I think, is really fucking dumb. Because the diamonds come in, and each one has to go, I'll try my power out, and that'll fix him.
This porridge is too hot.
And that scene...
This porridge is too cold.
That scene really sucks to me. I wish they hadn't done it. But they had to get everyone to be there,
everyone has to be present.
Because the diamonds become so fucking goofy that it kind of, like, downplays the whole situation. But whatever. I don't know. I'm not sure the train of thought there. They just wanted everyone to be there in the end.
Yeah, it's so that everyone can be there to, in turn, be the support to Steven that he gave to them.
And, like, the cluster shows up, which I guess he did, like, mind meld with the cluster and had this bond with it.
That's true.
So I get that the cluster wants to support Steven.
Maybe the cluster would want to help him.
Like, it makes sense if you think of it that way. It's just a little funny how it just appears. I think it's because he slammed on the ground, and so it, like, went into the Earth's core and, like, woke the cluster. Whatever. Doesn't matter. It's not taking itself that seriously.
Right.
That's the bigger point here.
It's not that important.
But, so Garnet gets the idea of, like, they're all talking about, like, Connie comes out, and, because the diamonds are all like, oh, this is my fault. I shouldn't have been so mean.
Everyone's wallowing in self-pity.
If only we
I
hadn't
did the
been
bad
assholes.
thing. Oh.
So Connie comes out and she's like, you need to stop making this about yourself. Get the fuck over yourself. We need to be here for Steven like he was there for us. We need to give him that unconditional love that he gives for us. And it's perfect. And they have a big scene where everyone has to go in and give Steven a hug. And they all give him a hug and they cry. They hug and cry and they just tell him how much they appreciate him for being there when they went through their shit. And they go like, I was fucked up here. I was fucked up here. And they go, thank you for being there for me. Yeah. And they help him realize that, like, yeah, we fucked up too. We had emotional moments. We overcame them because you were here for us and you're the shit. You're not a monster. You've shown us this side of you. We don't care.
Right.
The bad side of you doesn't matter. And that's an important thing for supporting people is, like, they need to be able to show you their dark side. And you go, that's fine, that's silly, I don't really care, you know? Yeah. Because at the end of the day, everyone's got dark bullshit, they got skeletons in their closet, it's not that bad, it's fine, you can talk about it, you know?
Yeah.
That's what Steven needed, was like, we accept the bad parts of you, you know?
Exactly. We don't expect you to be perfect. We know that you're gonna have these emotions and these thoughts, and we'll be here for you when you have them, and that's okay.
Yeah, you could be a fuck up, you could be a kid, you're not that perfect guy and we're here for you. And then Steven starts crying as a dinosaur and Connie jumps on his face and is like, fucking I love you, bro, and gives him a big kiss.
Gives him a little smooch.
And then that finally breaks him down and then he's just crying in a fucking mess and he's snotting and crying while hugging on the lion like a big baby bitch. And that's what everyone needs at the end of the day. You need to cry with your buddies like a big baby bitch like I do all the time with Hope. And you need someone in your life who you can cry like a big baby bitch with. And that's the great ending that we get. Yes. Steven's emotional arc, or at least he
comes back around.
It's coming full circle. He's not there yet, but we get to the last episode.
He's not fixed, but that's not the point, you know? You're not instantaneously going to be fixed because you had, like, an emotional revelation.
Yeah, but he's at the point where he's getting help and he's admitting that he has a problem.
Yeah.
And that's, you know, the first step, as they say. Admit you have a problem.
Like,
let people help you. Let people help you, you know?
And I mean, as silly as that moment is, because he was a big purple crying dinosaur.
Yeah.
The moment when they're all like everyone's standing around him and like everyone around him is crying and he looks around and he like just makes sure that everything is okay, and then as soon as he knows that like he's safe, everyone around him is safe, and he just fucking breaks down and you can just feel like that cry, that fucking big cry is just years of trauma that's finally being allowed to be expressed.
Yeah.
And it feels so cathartic to watch that happen.
Just release.
You're just like, oh my god, Steven, yes, please, just cry.
Because he's had his cry moments with like Garnet after the Connie thing, and he's cried a lot throughout the series,
But this is like
he hasn't had
huge
that
emotional release cry.
Yeah, he hasn't had that everything is okay, let it go cry. You know,
that
everything
just,
is
like,
okay.
Fuck it, floodgates are open.
He still
kinda
feels like there's a
cry.
big crystal gem war going on, and he's finally letting it go. And everyone's like, "Dude, the fight is fucking over. You can cry now. You can let it go.
You've been strong for fucking so long, and you're
Yeah.
a fucking child.
You're a fucking kid, exactly.
Like literally,
Ugh,
a child.
it's fucking brutal.
A
It's
child
beautiful.
soldier.
He finally gets his release that he needed. And it's awesome. So,
That's great.
final episode. It's time for Steven to move on. He's making plans for what he's going to do. He's going to travel the country
All
in
39
his car
states.
by himself. He's not taking anyone with him. He's going to find himself on this big journey like his dad wanted him to do. But now he's worked through his shit. And most importantly, he refers to, I can still talk to my therapist while I'm on the road. So, he's had his big moment, but he is talking to a therapist, a professional. Because he has not worked through this shit completely. He still needs help, which is so important. I love that they don't just go like, Steven's fine now.
He's fixed.
He had his big cry. He's better. It's like, no, he's seeing a therapist. He has years and years of baggage and shit to work through, and it's not going to be an easy process, but he's going on his journey. He's figuring shit out and finding where what he wants to do with his life, which he's never put any thought to whatsoever of what the fuck he's going to do. So, sweet. He has this ending with the crystal gems. You know, it's a goofy episode where he's going to each of them and he's like, why isn't my family sad? And I relate to that a lot because usually, like, when you leave somewhere, your family always seems to be like the least sad that you're going.
The most indifferent.
But it's probably because they've put the most thought into it and they've already kind of accepted it.
They've had the longest time
Yeah.
to adjust, probably.
'Cause I had the same feeling with my family where it was like, all right, I guess bye. And it's like, oh, see ya.
I guess bye.
Fucking bye. All right. Okay. But then, like, when my brothers leave, it's the same thing. It's like, all right, I'm gonna see you again. Whatever, you know. I'm glad you're doing your thing. It's cool. Even though on the inside, I'm like my brothers are gone. So he had that moment with his buddies, and then he takes off. And he's good.
You go.
And then I have that weird feeling in the last episode, like, you know, this guy has a magic lion that can teleport him any fucking where he wants to go, and he can see any of his friends at any time through a magic lion. Just throwing it out there, little plot hole. He can go visit Connie in California at any time with the magic lion.
Yeah, but that lessens the emotional
He can go.
impact,
He travels across the universe to a home world through a teleportation system, and he's got a magic lion that can bring him anywhere. Whatever, forget about it. Don't worry about it. We had to tell an emotional story. The emotional story depends on distance. Okay.
Correct.
Don't think about the lion. Let it go.
Don't
Just
worry
let it
about
go. This is what you do with cartoons. You don't nitpick. You look at what's really, really good, which is telling this coming of age story. It's like the Honey and Clover of cartoons, and it's great, and it's fucking perfect. And I love Steven Universe Future. Love Steven Universe as a whole. Wow, I can't believe it.
Yeah. I think what I admire the most about this is not only, like, of course I love the comprehensive story that they tell in Steven Universe, but I love that they took the extra step to tell you what happens after. Like,
Yeah.
what recovering from that, like, what facing those kinds
Yeah.
of things can feel like. It's going to give so many kids insight into emotions that would be so
Yeah.
hard to parse otherwise.
And teens, which is why it's great. You know, the show
when I
ran
say kids,
for
I mean-
yeah, 'Cause it ran for 7 years, and if you were 10 at the start of Steven Universe, you're 17 now, and
you're
you need
only a
this.
little older than Steven.
Yeah, because there's always been kind of an odd place with Steven Universe where it's like, is this a kids show? You know, like, do kids get this? Because like this season, an 8-year-old is obviously not going to understand fucking anything about this. You
Yeah.
know, they're not going to relate to it in any way.
They're gonna see
But
a big pink dinosaur and go, cool.
if you started watching Steven Universe at 10 and you were 17, I cannot imagine a better cartoon in the world for you to see, you know?
Oh my god.
And like, if you were going to compare it to other modern cartoons that ended with great stories, like, it's almost like Adventure Time is probably a more perfect overall work of art, you know,
Yeah.
from start to finish.
I agree.
Steven Universe goes so much further with just the character of Steven and his growth and development, I think.
Yeah.
And just the resolution and like really getting that strong resolution.
I think Steven Universe is more about exploring emotions and like
Yeah.
psychological things, and Adventure Time is more about telling a story and exploring a world and living with characters.
Yeah. And just...
Which are both great.
Yeah.
That's not a slight to either show. I love both of them.
It's just there's nothing I've seen that beats Steven Universe in terms of like just communicating the emotions that they want to communicate and exploring those paths. And just I think this season from start to finish, especially watching it again, because we watched it kind of sporadically as it was airing, as episodes came out, and like we'd kind of watch them in groups. But watching it all at once in the span of like a couple days, it was really just perfectly crafted from start to finish to give you Steven's final character arc, and it's so focused in on that. And each episode contributes perfectly to this build, and it was just planned really well, executed really well, and it's great. I wouldn't have wanted it to end any other way, you know?
Yeah. The emotional poignancy of this show, like, it's fucking insane. It's like certain songs, certain scenes of this series, no matter how many times I watch them, like, I'll cry.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter. I will cry. I can be listening to the song in my car, completely out of context, and I will cry.
Yeah. And I really respect the decision they had to end, like, the plot of the show where they did, in order, like, to give Steven what he needed.
To further a character.
Yeah.
Yeah.
To not focus on, let's do this big finale with Homeworld, because that all kind of, like, came to a conclusion really fast in an odd way.
Yeah.
That people were kind of mixed on.
I could see how you would be unsatisfied with
Yeah.
that if that was what you were wanting primarily from the show.
But the core of the show has always been about the characters and the people and Steven, and the fact that they spent an entire 20 episodes just on the end of Steven's story is really special to me. And, like, not every show is going to do that.
Yeah.
No other show is going to do that, you know?
Yeah,
Just focusing in such a detailed way to resolving this character's story. And if it had just ended at the end of the plot, that's not the end of Steven's story, you know?
Right.
He wouldn't have got to work through all this shit. It would have just been like, oh, big happy ending, whatever.
It's a shonen show in which
Yeah.
the protagonist wins the war,
Exactly.
and everything's great.
That's
but
the
that's
worst.
not how it really is.
Yeah, the worst finale. You know, Gon finds his dad, and then it's over, and like you don't
And then
really
he leaves
get.
Killua,
Yeah.
and you cry for 20 minutes.
Exactly, and you don't get to work through the end of their emotions. You know, you don't get to see them become an adult. You just see the plot end, and you go like, oh, I guess the characters were fine. You know, oh, the love story ended, and we don't get to see how the couple works out. Like. But Steven gets an ending. He gets to grow and become an adult.
Yeah.
And we got to see where his path is going to lead him, you know?
Yeah.
We don't get a cutaway to now Steven's an adult and everything's fine.
Right.
Like, but I don't really
no-
want that, you
Yeah.
know? It's not that kind of story.
Even though it had a completely fucked release schedule, thanks Cartoon Network.
Yeah.
I am still unbelievably grateful that this show got to be made and exist in its entirety, because I remember at the end of the first season, there was a very real concern that was going to be it. Like, it was going to be one season, Cartoon Network wasn't going to renew them, and Rebecca Sugar was, like, well aware of that, and she was ready to leave you at that cliffhanger of the first season, and she was like, that's it. Like, that's just how it's going to be. So I'm unbelievably grateful that this piece of media can exist in our world and be a tool, an emotional intelligence tool for so many young people. It's
very good for empathetic boys like me, empathetic impressionists. I
think it's good for anybody, even someone like me who is less on the empathetic end of the spectrum. But there's a character in this show that everyone can empathize with and can work with through their emotional character arc with. I think
it's great.
Anyone can get something out of this show.
It's definitely a treat after such a rocky production schedule and just like really not knowing if this was ever going to end in a satisfying way or if it was just going to get canceled randomly like it seemed like it would for many times.
Yeah.
And it's over, and I very much encourage anyone. I don't know why you'd be watching the rest of this if you haven't seen it already, but if you haven't seen Steven Universe, you got to check it out. I think it's great. I think now that it's over, it'd be incredible to binge. I'd really love to watch the whole thing again because I think it's definitely something that on the second watch, now that there's no space between all this stuff, it'll make a lot more sense and flow a lot better than when you're getting it months apart.
Yeah, or even, like a year.
Yeah, because there's certain points in the choppy middle where it's like, you'd get a little sick of Crybaby Steven in every episode, so emotional, and then like, oh, now we're spending all this time with the goofy cast and not with the homeworld plot. But if you watch it all at once, all that's just going to be like...
It's going to all blend together.
It's all going to blend together. You're not really going to notice or care.
Yeah.
It's going to feel a lot more natural because there's not so much space in between. And there's always those points where there's certain areas where it was hard to see where the show was going, but it always goes to the right place.
Yeah.
And then you go, oh, okay, this had a purpose. This was building to something. This had a payoff. Just like Steven Universe Future, the final season, it's like, as of episode 7, you don't really know yet where it's going to go.
Okay.
But then as soon as it starts to get into like episode 12 or 13, you're like, I know where this is going and this is fucking good. And I love this. And you watch it again and you're like, it was there from the very beginning, exactly where it was going to go. It's in the opening theme and it's incredible.
Absolutely. I want to buy it on Blu-ray! Yeah. Cartoon Network!
And I guess that's
Release
it.
the Blu-rays!
It's like, it's hard to stop talking about the end of Steven Universe because this is the discussion and this is the end, This is where we could get all our thoughts out, but like I think we, went over it.
There's so much about this show that's fucking insane. The fucking talent of the voice actors.
Oh my god.
Every fucking voice actor in the show can sing like a motherfucker. Oh my god. Fucking so much talent. It's insane. I love Blue especially. Her voice is so cool and so unique.
Oh my god.
She's always like half whispering. It's so, it's so like fucking beautiful to me. Like that voice is so great. I love it. But everyone's voice in the show is fucking flawless.
Such a great modern sort of millennial classic that I think our generation is going to understand way better than any other.
Yeah, probably.
It was made by us.
It came from a millennial, therefore it is for millennials.
I hope Cartoon Network keeps it around, even though it's so hard with the plot-driven show for them to, like, do reruns and stuff.
They don't give a fuck.
Yeah. Also, shit, I should have started with this, but if you want to watch it in good quality, take your parents' cable password and watch it all online on Cartoon Network. It's super easy to get. If you know someone who has cable, you use their cable login, and you can watch it all online for free in really good quality.
It's beautiful.
Like, it's some of the best streaming quality I've ever seen. It looks really, really nice, and that's how we watched it. I would we'd love to buy it if they ever released it.
Some of the animation in Future is just fucking great.
Yeah.
It's so good. Oh my god.
Still great anime callbacks and
So fucking
Utena-esque shit. Lots of fun character moments. We didn't even get into each individual character because I really wanted to stay focused on Steven because that's what the season is really about.
It's about Steven.
But each character really has a good moments, and like the sort of side characters and world building is really good. Mm-hmm. And it just resolves everything, you know?
Yeah.
It's great.
And I mean, as I told you while we were watching it, this show has better fight choreography than 90% of A1 Pictures shows.
Yeah.
So that's something.
Better than Sword Art Online.
Much better than Sword Art Online.
Yeah. Anyways, we gotta bring it to an end, or we'll never end.
We could, I
Yeah.
could talk forever about.
On the off chance that you found this video and you didn't know who we were already and you were just looking for Steven Universe discussion, welcome to our shit. This is our channel. Expect more videos like this in the future. Talking about
future.
cartoons, anime, Steven, subscribe, like a video. You've probably know who we are if you're watching this. You know, you're probably subbed. I doubt, analytically speaking, based on our channel analytics, no one has made it this far in the video besides the really diehards.
You know who you is.
Anywho, I hope you guys enjoyed it. I hope you watch Steven Universe. Let us know what you think. Let us know how much you hated it, because I feel like everyone in the world probably hates it.
And you're wrong.
And you're wrong, as we just explained. Anyways, bye. I'm gonna do one of these. It's spooky.
Oh my god, what are we, ContraPoints?
Yeah.
Yeah.